Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to ITHive.org's episode 34 live tech show. Here to answer questions. So if you have any, just put a comment in and we'll address that. Today, the topic I wanted to talk about is something that's been on my mind for a long time, and we have to put something in place here about recycling and what we do with technology, and I guess more correctly, reusing technology. I face this all the time with customers, and I've talked about this a little bit before on the show, that when computers first came out and they were popularized in the 90s and 80s, they didn't have a very long shelf life, and there wasn't much you could do after the fact. Because things were changing so rapidly, a computer became very quickly outdated. But over the years, this has changed and will continue to change. And with that, I think that we as a society all around the world have to rethink what we're doing with technology and what we do after we don't need it anymore. And the thing that I find the most disturbing is that a lot of us still have that old 1980s, 1990s mentality about technology, and it's broken, I shouldn't fix it, I'll just throw it out or recycle it or e-recycle it. And that's all fine and dandy, especially if you e-recycle it. But what really happens to that technology after, right? How is it effectively e-recycled? Because let's face it, everything comes down to resources and cost, and everything is a business model. So unless it's governments, of course, because they unfortunately sometimes can operate on a non-business model, so there's no cost recovery. Now, here's where I'm thinking, and I did some quick research before I started this show, and I was happy to see that there are some companies that are rethinking this process. And I'm going to look into, as the head of ITHive.org, doing something here about it. And I've had this idea in my head a few times, and I think maybe it's time to move this a little bit further ahead. But here's my thought. Okay, doing IT support for over 20 years, I've seen the trends and I've seen things change, and even computers that are fairly inexpensive that you buy today, there's no reason why they shouldn't last you a long time. Now, it's all relevant to the cost, right? Like I talked in previous shows, the cheaper your computer, the more expensive it is to own, as a general rule. Okay, so that's something to be considered when you buy a computer. Think of it as an appliance. Think of it as an investment for 5 years, 6 years, 7, even 10, right? If looked after and maintained, there should be no reason why it shouldn't last that long, right? And this will help prevent us constantly throwing things out, right? And stuff like that. So here's where my thought on technology comes in. Instead of recycling or e-recycling technology, for the most part, I think the first step to our technology, things that we don't want anymore, right, for whatever reason, should be a reuse. Okay, there's nothing wrong with, and I think that this can be done in a cost recovery model, where you take in technology that people don't want, you refurbish it, repurpose it, clean it up, fix anything that's wrong where it makes sense, and then sell it back out to the customers. And there are companies that are doing this now. There's not a lot. It's small scale. And I hope to be one of those that are going to start this as being a normal process, right? I'm not sure where we're going to go quite with this yet, but we're going to make it one of our things to do, and get this ball rolling. Because, sorry, the thing is, what I see out there a lot of the times is people throw technology out for crazy, silly reasons. The thing that I find the most disturbing is people get rid of technology when there's software issues. And, they don't know that, right? And they don't understand that. They just, it doesn't work, so I'll throw it out. And, that's very 1980-ish. We are all in 2018. We should all be thinking a little bit more environmentally about what happens to the planet and what we're doing to the planet and the role we're playing in it. And what we have to understand is that there's a twofold issue with technology. When you throw technology out, there's environmental consequences that, even if it's recycled, right? And I would like to see technology being used for as long as it can be, when it can't be fixed anymore. Because as I alluded to before, technology you get today is fantastic. The hardware is really good, top notch, and you can do a lot of things with it, right? And there's no reason why you can't reuse something and keep it in the mix, right? Obviously, there's limits to that, but I believe, and I'm pretty sure this happens factually, is that a lot of very, very good technology ends up in the recycling program, and it ends up being trash or garbage, and that's not good, right? So yeah, okay, correct my statement on trash or garbage. Yes, it's being recycled, right? But how effective is that necessarily, right? It's something we really don't see. When you drop off your e-recycling, what really happens there? Is it really being done properly? I don't know, right? But again, I go back to this, is that if you have a process, you take in electronics, you fix them up, clean them up, repurpose them, find out what needs to happen to it to make that a useful product again, and then sell it. And, you're going to help. There's a lot of people, a lot of population that maybe can't afford to buy technology, right? Or have the latest and greatest, right? And they'd be, a lot of, or even other people who want to be maybe a little bit more conscious about, their buying habits and what they're doing to the planet, right? Instead of buying that brand new computer, buy a reused one and save a ton of money, right? So this is something I'm thinking that we might get into. I have to look into it a little bit more. I think that there's a need, and I would like to be part of fulfilling that need and get things off the ground. It'll be a bit of an endeavor, and a bit of stuff like that. But I think that it's needed, right? It's needed. I cringe to see good technology ending its usable usable process early, right? It just, why? Why? I point to some of the things I've got here. Aside from this laptop, which is fairly new, a couple of years old, the one I'm using right now, I have a machine over here that I've got 3 monitors hooked up to. It's my main machine. I do all my support work on here, all my admin work, everything. And it's a 10-year-old laptop. And it works fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And and I have no issues with it. It's fast, it's beefy, it's got all the right amount of memory, and I find this, and I've seen this a lot. Customers buy technology, and maybe it's not quite as beefy as it should be, but it could be upgraded to be that brand new machine. And I've helped people before with this, where they have machine and they don't like the performance of it or whatnot, and with a little bit of upgrading to the hardware, so boom, becomes a brand new machine. And so this is, so I talked before where people throw out machines for, software issues, right? But people throw out machines as well because they don't know that they can actually just upgrade it a little bit, right? And it'll be a whole new machine and perform a whole lot better for them, right? Even as, so I'm talking about putting more memory in, right? That would be a very inexpensive thing. Maybe changing your hard drive to a solid state drive, right? Those things would definitely, those are two things that in a lot of cases would speed up a machine, right? So, and this is something that we can do. So if people want to have that, and there'll always be those of us among the population that have to have the latest and greatest and don't want to spend the time to fix or invest in computers because they're still stuck in that 1980s, 1990s mentality. And they want to just, I'll just throw it out and, go to a store and we'll buy something new again. And then, 2 years later, I'll do that again and again. Well, that's a broken process, right? So aside from changing people's thought process on that, maybe we just need to think about what we do with technology when it's no longer needed, right? And repurpose it. Get it back out into the market at an affordable price, and let those of us that understand that, hey, this piece of technology is still good, use it. And this is where I think this kind of philosophy is important, because if you look at the trend of technology, okay, where we were in the 80s and 90s and where we are today, imagine where we'll be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Right? The technology is just going to get better, right? And the replacement cycle, the amount of years that a piece of technology will be able to be used will also get longer. So we need to change our thought process around that, right? And really understand that. And it's just so important, right? Because there's a lot of, I was going to talk about this, I think, before, and I lost track, but there's environmental consequences to making technology, and there's environmental consequences to recycling technology. So the longer we can make a piece of technology last and live for, right, the better off we all are. And I think that is the main point. So, again, what I'm talking about for us, ITHive.org, we're a tiny little blurb in the IT world. However, starting something here, even if we're not the ones, maybe we can start the process, right? Maybe we can partner up with other folks, like-minded folks that want to see something like this happen as well, and all we really need to do is to develop a one model that works and perfect that on a small scale, and then make sure that is scalable to a larger scale, and then just replicate it, and then technology is not such an environmental disaster anymore. So that's what we wanted to talk about. As always, I do these, I got to explain a little bit here. I do these talks live. I always have a little bit of thought of what I want to talk about and what I want to discuss in the subject matter. But largely, I don't pre-prepare a big spiel because I don't want to come off as scripted. I want to do these things from the heart, so you got to kind of take it as it comes. But hey, that's just what it is. So anyway, over the 15 minutes, try to keep these to 15. And so that's episode 34 to a close. And let's all think about reusing our technology and help us out if you can. Okay? All right. We'll talk next Saturday at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And I'm happy that all of us that took the time to pay attention to this. Again, provide me comments if you have thoughts, if you want to be involved in something like this. Well, get a hold of me. More minds the better, more partners the better. We'll have more success that way. All right, next Saturday, we'll see you, 10 o'clock Eastern, ITHive.org, live tech show.